In November 1988, 17-year-old high schooler Junko Furuta went missing from Misato in the Saitama prefecture in Japan. A few days later, Junko called her parents to assure them she was fine and she was staying with friends, also asking them to call off the police investigation into the missing persons case they'd asked the police to investigate. 44 days later, Junko had been brutally murdered, effectively being tortured to death after being kept prisoner in a family home. Why did this happen to Junko, and who was responsible? Welcome all in to the MO podcast, Dark. Hello and welcome all in to the MO podcast, Dark. As always, you're here with me, Contumacia-san.
And me, Andrea.
And today we are going to be covering the subject of Junko Furuta.
Okay, I don't know this one, but is this one going to be another one of the ones where your pronunciation is a lot scarier than the episode?
It could be, and we are going to Japan, so I preference this by apologising for my pronunciation. Not very good at that, but what I will also say that many trigger warnings on this. So we're going to be discussing the R word and extreme violence against a teenager.
Can I ask one thing before you start?
Go on.
Does the dog die?
No animals were hurt.
Okay, that's fine then. I'm on board with this one.
The filming of this episode. So, just go back to it. Some trigger warnings in this episode. We're going to be discussing rape and extreme violence against a teenager. Now, some of this is going to be extremely graphic, and just want to clarify that this isn't for clicks. Like we've discussed this previously, it's some of the cases that we're going to cover, in my opinion, they've been very underreported, maybe with good reason, because they are very distressing, but I think personally they need to be heard for the victims and for anyone else who may find themselves in similar situations. There's always help out there, and we will, in the description, there will be helplines and such if you ever find yourself, or if this rings a bell with you or someone you know, then there are outlets out there that will help you. So, saying that, we're going to dive straight in, yeah. So, Junko Furuta was born in 1971 in Misato, which is a city of around 100,000 people in Saitama province in central Japan. Now, she was a well-liked high schooler. She had high grades, she had a part-time job in a plastic moulding factory, and she was saving up for a trip that she was going to do after she graduated. Now, she'd already been accepted into a full-time job after her graduation, and this was in an electronics store. And as soon as she returned from this trip, they were going to hire her, and she had a life planned out. Now, she also did dream about becoming an idol, which was kind of one of the forerunners to the K-pop phenomenon that we have nowadays. And in the 80s, this was regarded as kind of the golden age of idols in Japan. They were all over the advertising, all over the television. They were selling everything, and it's something that young women aspired to be this kind of thing. I mean, Not sure whether I agree with it because it's putting people on pedestals and but that's by the by. This is what Junko wanted to do, and by all accounts, she was popular and attractive enough to be able to make this dream come true. Now, unfortunately, it never came true because on the 25th of November 1988, Junko was cycling home after her shift at the plastic moulding factory, and she quite literally ran into her kidnappers. Now, Shinji Minato ran up to Junko and he kicked her off her bike. He'd been instructed to do this by Hiroshi Miyano. Now, Miyano was conveniently waiting across the road, and he approached Junko as a concerned onlooker. He'd just seen what had gone on, and he was very concerned, and he offered to walk her home. This is where Junko's life took a turn for the worst. Now, just going to interject at this point, talk about the kidnappers. There were 4 of these boys. I don't want to say men because they never ever will be men, no matter how old they get, but they were teenagers themselves. And although no one involved in this, we can't really say there's a hierarchy because they're all on the same plane of sick fuck. The ringleader could be described as Hiroshi, who was 18. Now, Minato, who was 16, he could be called the number 2, literally, because he is a piece of shit. There was Joe Agora, who was 17, who is unfortunately still a sick fuck. And Yasushi Watanabe, who was 17, who is also a cunt. So they...
Ooh, you whipped out the profanities so early on.
These people deserve it. They don't even deserve their names mentioning, to be quite honest with you, but just because of it being not native for me, I have to mention their names rather than give them 1, 2, 3, and 4, because I think it'll get more confusing as we go on.
And how will we key their cars if we don't know their names?
Well, exactly. So their ages range from 16 to 18, and these were a little group who went around. Now, Miyano, who was the ringleader, let's say, had a history of shit behaviour since he was a child. He started shoplifting at a very young age. He had a history of violent behaviour. This was either destruction of property or outbursts against teachers and students. By 1986, he'd been enrolled in a private school by his parents because they thought that'd straighten him out. Throw money at the problem.
It's always the rich kids.
Yeah. And I think this is what you'll find with these people. But after a year of being enrolled in this private high school, he dropped out and he quickly escalated his crimes. Now, because he escalated his crimes, he was noticed by the Yakuza, and he was, did he use quote marks, recruited into their ranks. Now, if you don't know, the Yakuza are an organised criminal gang in Japan, kind of like the American Mafia in that respect. They control different areas and whatnot.
And the triads in China. And
Exactly. But
I mean, would they not be looking for somebody that could kind of slip under the radar a bit easier instead of somebody that was like, hey, I just petrol bombed a house. Fucking hell, let us recruit that guy.
So,
are they not?
This is where the claim to have been recruited into the Yakuza, because I haven't seen in the research that they claimed him as one of their own, but he used this as a calling card. He used it to get his way with other people. I know the Yakuza. Fuck you. I'm this guy.
I mean, I could say I'm part of Anonymous. It doesn't make it true.
Exactly. And what you've got to consider as well, part in due part to his age and part to his relatively new induction into the gang, he was probably only used as someone who went from A to B with paraphernalia that they would use. So if he got caught, they could just walk away and go, nothing to do with me.
He probably like brought the subways and things like that.
Exactly.
Like they sent him to Greg's and stuff.
So he, if anything, he was their little bitch. He was nothing more than that, but he liked to claim that he was hot shit.
I don't think he was even part of the Yakuza.
Indeed.
Are they really going to have somebody that just walk like a kid that walks around going, "Oh, I'm with the Yakuza"?
Exactly. But as an aside to this, what I do want to say is the Yakuza during the Second World War, they would provide comfort women for the Imperial Japanese soldiers. So from there, they went on into sex trafficking and sex tourism, along with drug dealing and arms dealing and whatever else. But I
don't think that's singular to Japan, though, right?
No, but I just want to say that as they saw women as a commodity, they didn't see them as real people. They just saw them as whatever they wanted.
So same as every other country at the time.
Pretty much. And I mean, it still goes on today.
Yes, I know. I've been waiting for you for like 3 hours.
Yeah, okay, right.
It's fucking shocking treatment.
Fuck me. Fine. So, at this point, I'm just going to repeat a couple more trigger warnings because it does get quite graphic from here on in. So this is the point of no return. If you don't want to hear this story, please walk away now because...
Do I disconnect from the chat then?
I mean...
Oh, okay.
You may do at some
point.
I
have to stay. Okay.
So Miyano, instead of being the knight in shining armour that Junko thought he would be, he took her to a disused warehouse and he raped her. He then took her to a hotel and he raped her again. Now, while he was at this hotel, I assume it's one where you pay by the hour.
Like a motel, kind of shitty cash, kind of...
Ask no questions at the front desk.
Yeah, nobody's like, even if she went, this guy's just fucking raped me and he's just about to do it again, please help. Like, sorry, sounds like a you problem. The guy on the front desk flicking through his magazine.
Exactly. So, while at the hotel, Miyano called the other three accomplices, Minato, Ogura, and Watanabe, and he started to brag about what he had done. Now, Ogura suggested that they keep Junko captive so they could all have a go, and even invite others from the Yakuza to join in so that would help their standing.
I don't know about you, right, but I don't feel like rape is a brag-worthy feat. Like, you have physically had to force yourself on a woman because she won't sleep with you. That's kind of the opposite of bragging rights. Like, if you were kind of like this drop-dead gorgeous bombshell girl, it was just like, take me now, I'm yours, then you'd be like, this girl, she was mine, and she came on to me, not like, yeah, guess what, I just raped somebody.
I cannot see how it is a bragging point. I don't understand how this mentality comes along.
It's like people that go into strip joints and they're like, yeah, this girl was all over me. Yeah, you stuck 50 quid in her knickers, of course she was. She was plying you for more cash, you dumb fuck.
Exactly. I mean, going back, well, with that point, these four had a history of gang rape, as they'd recently kidnapped another girl and all taken turns raping her, and they let her go, miraculously. And on the evening where Junko was kidnapped, They were actually looking for women to rob and rape.
So they let this other woman go,
Yeah.
but they never got sent to jail. Did she not press charges or something?
No. So they had a history of this around the place, and they were actively looking for women to rob and rape, and they had done it before, but no charges were ever. Now,
People were probably scared of them.
it could be because they were dropping the Yakuza link, and that is historically, it's intrinsically linked with the politics and the police and a payoff here and there kind of thing. But I don't know. I really couldn't tell you about it. And I believe that Japan has something like a violent crime. The police solve like 80-90% of it. Whether that is they just force someone to confess to it, or whether that's they get the job done, who knows. But
I don't know about you though. If somebody raped me and then said, "By the way, I'm part of the Yakuza, so you better not tell anyone," I'd be like, "Okay." I wouldn't tell anybody. I'd be like, "I'm fine. Lips are sealed." Like,
yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
It's yeah.
I don't even want them keying my car, let alone petrol bombing my house.
Yeah. It is true. It is true, and it is a massive, massive threat. And culturally, I can kind of get how the grip of that word has on the people, especially when if they're lower, like not lower class people, working class people, they just try to get along in life, just don't want any trouble. They just want to get on with it. It's like fine, whatever, get on. But
I mean, when it gets into gangs and stuff, people go missing. You know, like
exactly.
that guy. You know, they found that when Lake Mead's dried up and they found that body in a barrel. The guy was shot in the head. He went missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to end up at the bottom of Lake Mead in a barrel.
So at around 3 a.m, Miyano took Junko to meet the other three, and then they took her to a house in the Asai district, and the gang raped her again. Now, this wasn't a safe house of the Yakuza. It wasn't a derelict house. It wasn't uninhabited. This was the home of Minato, who he lived there with his mother and father and his brother.
He took her back to his parents' house.
Yeah.
Were they there?
Yes.
I really hope he had a soundproof basement, because there's really no excuse if he didn't, why they didn't do anything about it.
So this is where everybody involved in this is absolute fucking scum of the earth. And this is where Junko would live for the next 40 plus days. Yeah, it's not. I mean, I can't stress how complicit each and every person involved in this is, from the parents of these 4 people to anybody that heard about this, knew about this was going on, and there's a hell of a lot of people that knew that this was going on. So the defense of the parents were that the boys had threatened them with the Yakuza. They would come round and we're just keeping her here. She's in the beginning. They kind of said, "Oh well, it's my girlfriend. She's here. She's my girlfriend." But after
She looks happy to be in a relationship with you.
yeah, but after the first couple of days, this quickly dissolved into being a blatant lie. Yet they still did nothing. Now, on the 27th of November, Junko's parents called the police after she failed to return home, and she hadn't called them. So it's 2 days after she went missing on the 25th, so this is the 27th. Now,
Why did they wait 2 whole days?
See, now whether because she worked late nights and she went to school and then she went to her job after work, So maybe they thought on the first night she'd stayed over at a friend's house, went to school, went to work, and then when they woke up on the morning of the 27th, she hadn't returned. Then they called the police. So she was an active person, but she would never not kind of speak to them. Now, whether the group were alerted to this missing person investigation or whether they just tried to preempt not being investigated, they forced Junko to phone her parents several times, saying that she had run away, she wasn't happy, and she was living with friends. She was fine, but she didn't want the investigation to continue. Now, the group had found out her address, her parents' address, from the school books that she had. And again, they threatened her family with the Yakuza retribution. So she was just trying to look out for them. Now, I'm having a drink before I fucking go into this.
So in the midst of this whole thing, because you would think that like the Yakuza have got eyes and ears everywhere. You know, they're a massive organised crime gang. Do you not think they might have stepped in at some point and go, these 4 dicks are seriously tarnishing our badass reputation because they're 4 little cockends? No, they're not with us. In fact, give us a tenner and we'll take them out for you.
You say that, but over the next 40 days, Junko was raped by over 100 men. The higher estimate is 500 times while she was held in captivity over 44 days. She was raped over 500 times. And these were by acquaintances of this group. Now, if they were in the Yakuza, you would have to say some of them 100 men would be part of the Yakuza, so they knew about what was going on. And even if they weren't part of the Yakuza, like you say, they have eyes and ears everywhere, so they would have known something like this was going on. When you've got a fucking revolving door like this, I don't know how the police did not pick up on it, because how many men, what is it, 50? That's like 3 people a day going into this house to do this. So, and still...
Oh, is it not more preferable to die? I can't even...
She did ask on several occasions for them to kill her. Now, this wasn't the only torture that was inflicted upon her. Now, when she wasn't being raped, she went through hell. She was forced to eat cockroaches. She was forced to masturbate in front of the group. She was left on the balcony with little to no clothing in the Japanese winter. And that's pretty much on our same level. So in November, it's quite cold in England, so it'd kind of be the same there. As the days went on, the group thought they became untouchable because no one was coming knocking at the door, and they got more depraved. Objects were inserted into her, both sides. These included bottles, metal rods, and according to some accounts, lit fireworks.
What?
Yeah. She was also severely physically assaulted, with her face beaten so badly that her features were not able to be made out. She also had weights dropped on her body. This resulted in Junko not being able to walk or to be able to use the bathroom. Now, as the abuse went on, she became... I'm not saying this is what the group said. She became less sexually desirable to the group.
Well, I'm bloody fucking sure.
So she became a punching bag, literally. They would suspend her from the ceiling and use her as a physical punching bag. After a bad gambling loss at Mahjong, Miyano poured light fuel on her legs and he set her on fire. Now, she did try and put out the flames, but as she was only, at this point in time, she was only being given milk. They'd stopped feeding her. All she was able to drink was milk. She quickly lost energy and she lost consciousness. When she passed out, they continued to beat her until she started having convulsions. This wasn't enough for the group to stop. They still continued. They covered their hands in plastic bags so they wouldn't be covered in blood or pus that was coming out of the burns on her legs. And they continued to beat her for another 2 hours.
I suppose it's a small blessing that she was fucking unconscious. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Now, yeah, I'm sorry.
What is the matter with people? What the fuck is the matter with people? Like, what kind of wiring in your brain is so wrong that you would do that to another human being?
Exactly. And that's the thing. This is what I would kind of want to reiterate, is that there are horrible people in the world. And maybe you're not going through something as this bad, but if you're going through some shit, maybe it could go to this level. It only needs to be pushed once, and then your boundaries get pushed back and back. So if you are, please fucking call someone, you know?
Or punch the fucking lights out.
Yeah, just, yeah.
You know what they always say? If you're getting bullied and a bully hits you, fucking hit them back, and then they find somebody else to bother.
Exactly. They go against weakness. And,
yep.
You know what? All the threats in the world doesn't mean anything when shit like this can happen to you.
So punch their lights out and cut their heads off, just in case they decide to do it to anybody else.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like it's hard to beat somebody up without a head.
Could be. But we did talk about zombies. Unfortunately, Junko passed away due to this beating. But...
You reckon?
Because the group were a bunch of cunts, they didn't notice until 24 hours later. And this was because... Minato's brother, who lived in the house, went in to see her, and she wasn't moving, she wasn't responsive, and he actually told the group that she was not there anymore. When they found out that she died, they wrapped her body in sheets and put her in a 55-gallon barrel, which they filled with cement, and then they dumped it in Kyoto, Japan. Tokyo, excuse me. Now, amazingly, it'd take 2 months until the police caught the killers, and even then, they fucking fluked it. It'd take 2 months until the police caught the killers, and even then, it was just a very lucky coincidence. Now, Miyano and Agora were arrested for the rape of a 19-year-old. But because the police were very vague about the reasons why they'd been arrested, they just said, "You've been arrested on rape." Which says more than any amount of documentation can say. They assumed it was about Junko, not about the 19-year-old that they just recently raped.
Ah, okay.
So they assumed
they dug themselves in then.
Yeah. So
dickheads.
The police played both of them off against each other. Like, he's in the other room talking about it, so you might as well come clean. And Miyano thought Agora had confessed, so he came clean about Junko's imprisonment. Now, the police had no fucking clue what he was talking about, so he had to explain it in great detail. This is why we know everything that they did to her, because they were quite happy to go on record saying, this is the piece of shit I am, and this is what we did. So Junko's body was recovered, and a funeral was held on the 2nd of April 1989. One of her friends gave a speech at a funeral, and this is a speech. It was, "Jun-chan, welcome back. I have never imagined that we would see you again in this way. You must have been in so much pain, so much suffering. The happy," which is a graduation shirt they made, "the happy we all made for your school festival really looked good on you. We will never forget you. I have heard that the principal has presented you with a graduation certificate, so we all graduated together. All of us. Jun-chan, there is no more pain, no more suffering. Please rest in peace." Now, the group was prosecuted, but because of their age and because of the fact that they pled guilty to committing bodily injury that resulted in death rather than murder, the sentences were fucking atrocious. Miyano...
If you say community service, I'm disconnecting the call right now.
It may as fucking well be. Now, Miyano, who was the ringleader, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was released in 2009. Yeah. Minato, who was the number 2, and whose house where they kept her imprisoned, was sentenced to 5 to 9 years in prison.
What?
Yeah. And if you can't believe it, he was rearrested in 2018 for attempted murder.
No fucking way.
Watanabe was sentenced to 5 to 7 years in prison.
I mean...
Yeah.
I thought that... Oh, no. I thought there was the death penalty in Japan.
They do have the
It's
death
China.
penalty. No, they do have the death penalty in Japan, but because...
Because they were, what, young?
Yes. So this is...
But they weren't young.
No, they weren't. And this is why, because Miyano was the only 18-year-old. So he was charged as an adult, maybe. But they were charged together as a group. And because they didn't admit to murder, they just took the lesser plea of committing bodily injury that resulted in death. So it's like drunk driving. Well, maybe not drunk driving, but...
So they were saying it was manslaughter?
Pretty much. So there is...
People still do life in prison for manslaughter.
They do, but there is a difference between murder and causing someone's death. I don't agree with it, especially in this case. In this case, it's fucking...
I think the kind of standard definition for murder is causing someone's death. Is that not like... I think we should dictionary.com this.
No, but this is it. But there is an actual legal definition between murder and causing someone's death. This is why in America you have like first degree murder, second degree murder, manslaughter, So there's all these levels. And this is what they pled guilty to.
But if they know that they tortured her and raped her, they must have thought the intent to murder was there. So how could they not have... Surely the prosecution would have been like, the intent to murder was there, I'm sorry, but...
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Whether they wanted a win in this, or just to get them in prison and get paid, or whether they wanted to make these people a spectacle, I don't know. It's...
Do you know what it is, right? Even Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney would have turned this case down, and he never turns cases down.
Yeah. And then the fourth member, Agora, was sentenced to 8 years in juvenile detention, which is pretty much fucking play school. While he was there, he bragged about what he did, and amazingly enough, he was rearrested in 2004 for assault.
I've just...
Yeah, you think that's bad? Agora's mother vandalised Junko's grave, claiming that she had ruined her son's life.
What?
Yeah, she smashed the headstone and ripped up all the flowers, claiming that it was her fault. Her beloved son had been sent to prison.
Her beloved son was a fucking douchebag.
Yeah, not the reoffender who bragged about what he had done.
Oh, right. That woman needs shooting in the face.
Yeah.
But slowly.
Yeah. So, Minato's parents, who was the guy whose the house they stayed at, they were ordered to pay compensation to Junko's family, and they had to sell the house in order to raise the funds to reimburse them.
I don't think they really fucking wanted compensation financially.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a tick in the box that the court did on that one. I think they should have been in the dock alongside these cunts. Really, I mean,
like, oh, thanks very much. I've got 100 grand. Woo!
Yeah.
My daughter was tortured, raped, and murdered, but at least I've got 100 grand. What the fuck?
Yeah. So when the group were arrested, because of their age, none of their details were released. So they were prisoner X, Y, and Z. But
I hate that.
But journalists from the Shukan Bushan magazine discovered their identities, and they went against the court order and they printed their names.
Good for them.
They stated that given the severity of the crime, the accused did not deserve to have their right of anonymity upheld, which is fucking well done to them people.
Yes.
Because
you know what I don't get is, like, you remember the girls that thought they were appeasing Slender Man, and they killed the other girl from school, and the two boys that killed the little toddler in the shopping mall, and they were all like, oh yeah, they're only kids, so they have... No, they're fucking little psychos. It doesn't matter how old they are. Yeah. If you're a 5-year-old psycho, you're a 5-year-old psycho.
You ain't gonna unlearn that. You're never gonna unlearn it. It's gonna be there, and it's gonna bubble. Yeah.
What right do you have to anonymity?
Yeah.
With what you've done, you lose all human rights. For me, you cease to be entitled to any human rights, no matter how old you are.
I agree 100%. As soon as you cross that line, you've taken someone's human rights away from them. So why should you have any? You should be judged the same way as you judge them. So don't come crying. Fucking going, no, fuck off. Go die.
I was young and I didn't know what I was doing. Fuck, no, you fucking did. You know exactly what you were doing.
Exactly.
Even at a very young age, you are taught the difference between right and wrong. Even in school.
You taught it from fucking what? 3, 4, 5 years old? And you, that is something that sticks with you. Whether you stick to it or not is down to you. It's down to the individual. Now.
Yeah.
You can all chime off in the comments about what you think about that, but that is the way both of us, you learn your values at a young age. And if you don't...
I don't think anyone's born to have sadistic impulses. Nobody's born that way. It's something that you fucking learn. I don't care what anyone says. I like, oh, he was born a killer, she was born... No, nobody is born a killer. Yes, they might be wired up wrong, but it's something that has to be nurtured into them to carry on being wrong.
Yeah. You need, It's like, there's so many people that, like, if you're in a family, if you've got, like, maybe not a mum and dad, but a mum or a dad looking after you, they should be able to see the signs and be able to deal with that, get help for you, or be able to talk through it. But you're taught that from day one. What's right, what's wrong. Lying's bad. This is bad. Stealing's bad.
But I mean, even if serial killers have had kids, but the kids aren't bad. The kids are perfectly normal human beings. So it's not inherently in your DNA. You are not born like this.
Exactly.
So you can't say that every serial killer that's had a child is a fucking psycho, because that's a complete fabrication.
Exactly, because otherwise there'd be generations of fucking...
Of serial killers.
It'd be like passing it down, like, I was a blacksmith, your granddad was a blacksmith, now you'll be a blacksmith. Like, I was a serial killer, your granddad was a serial killer, now you'll be a fucking serial killer. Crack on, lad.
Yes.
Here's the hammer, go for it.
I mean, it can, like I say, it can be nurtured, and it can be, yes, actually, cutting people's heads off is very good for controlling the high population levels in the area. Yes, so you should do it like I did it, and my father did it, and my father's father did it before him. And then you can be like, oh, okay, so yeah, no, this dad says it's cool, and dad says that's what I should do, then I should do it. You don't just think it yourself one day and go...
Exactly.
Like when
it's
you're born.
On you.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, one of the most heartbreaking things about this, apart from all the above and what we've
everything,
talked about,
apart from everything,
is that night Junko was on her way home. When she was on her way home, she was looking forward to watching the last episode of a Japanese TV program, which was called Dragonfly. Now, she mentioned this so much that Miyano buried her with a VCR recording of the episode. Now, it wasn't because he gave a shit about her, it was because he thought she would come back and haunt him if she didn't have that with her.
Well, she's still going to come back and haunt him unless he buried her with a VCR player.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing. That's all. She was so hopped up on this series. It was like a big series in Japan, and that's all she wanted to do. And she said it so many times that it actually, I'm not going to say resonated with him, but it actually made Miyano go, oh, I'll just give her that. So how much must she have been talking about, I just want to go home, I just want to go home, I just want to see this. And
to be fair, the Japanese do have a very strong cultural background of like, kind of like spirits and
things
don't
they?
So
In the Shinto.
It's not like you just kind of
But yeah, so I just think that's all she was kind of talking about. I just want to go and see this, and it made, I don't want to say an impact because it's giving him some kind of credence, but he actually thought that I'll have to put this VCR in here or else she's going to come back and get me. And
yeah, he just didn't want to be haunted by a traumatic ghost.
Exactly. He's a piece of shit, but I just so it's fucking horrendous. And
he didn't do it because he felt guilty. He did it because he was shit scared of ghosts.
Yeah, of course. He just thought about the spiritual side of it. He wasn't he just didn't want to wake up one night and see her at the end of his bed with a fucking. I hope.
Like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah, I hope every time he closes his eyes, he fucking sees her face.
You know what it is? I don't think he does. Because I just don't think he's remotely bothered.
These people aren't. They're not, and these, like we were saying, these people are just so differently wired, and I don't understand how you can be. Now, I'm not depraved or anything, but I've read some stuff for this series. Like, there's stuff coming up that I've read and I've listened to, and it's like, I thought I could stomach it. But this, I just can't. Like, not that I can't stomach it, but it's like, I do think about it a couple of days later and go, fucking hell. Like, even this, done this now, don't ever need to listen to this story again. But in a couple of days, or a couple of weeks, I'll go, oh yeah, Junko, fucking hell, that was rancid. But these people don't
forget
think
it,
like
though.
that. Exactly.
Yeah.
But these people don't think like that. They just... And they were there. They were doing this to her. They had her there, and they were... I don't know how they're wired. It's...
I mean, like, I know that there's, like, a genuine dysfunction in people's brains that psychopaths have that's been proven where you cease to see a person as a human being. You dehumanize somebody and they're just an object kind of thing. And, like, I am very, like, passive about humanity. I really don't really much care for humanity at all. I think there's a lot of nasty, evil pieces of shit in the world.
But mention an animal.
People that are... Well, yes. But at the same time, right, I don't necessarily care about the wider I mean, I care about my family and my friends, but I don't care about the wider population sort of thing. But if I saw somebody getting hurt or beat up, and it has happened when I've walked past somebody that's been getting the shit kicked out of him, I have tried to, and I've been like hauled back by my t-shirt by Dave, like, stay away from that, and I've tried to intervene. I mean, the guy probably would have pummeled me to crap. I'm weak as shit. I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat. But, for as far as I know, that the guy that was having the shit kicked out of him could have slit the other guy's girlfriend's throat or something. I don't know. But as soon as I saw that happening, I was like, whoa, and kind of went over. So I wouldn't stand and let somebody be hurt if I thought I wouldn't accept it. But at the same time, like, I don't necessarily go out of my way to give a shit about people.
No, of course, that's the thing. If it's in front of your face, then you automatically feel empathy, or a lot of the population, most people feel empathy.
That's what I mean.
And they put themselves in that position, and you jump in because you wouldn't be the one in that position, kind of thing.
Yeah. You don't have to be a people person to intervene with something bad that's going on to somebody else.
Exactly. I'm 100% the same. I don't really give a shit about anyone else. But if I see something going on, then I will try and intervene and stop something. But
yeah, if you saw someone being hurt, you would help.
But none of these people tried anything. And it's just...
And they're still alive right now. Yeah?
This was only in 1988, so
and they're free now.
All of them are free, walking around. I think Minato, who was rearrested in 2018 for attempted murder. I think he's behind bars, but it was 2018, so I couldn't find anything. And I think Ogura, he was rearrested for assault in 2004. He's been in and out of prison since then. He's fucking horrible. But I think Watanabe has moved away from the area. I think he may have changed his name, and now he has a family, and he's
Sorry, what right does he have to that?
I don't know about remorseful, but he's taken a step back from whatever he was doing that got him involved with this. And I don't want to say in fairness, but he was 16 years old at the time that this happened. Now, no, there's no excuse. I 100% agree. There is no excuse.
It's not washing with me.
But he was the youngest of these four. So... just saying, like, I know, I don't think he should have been. He could have, at any time, he could have spoken up, done something, gone to the police, whatever.
Yeah,
but
no excuse.
No, there is no excuse. But yeah, they're all alive, and they're all breathing air at this moment in time, apparently. It's just horrible. But, yeah. On that bombshell.
I really hope your light episode's really funny and happy. This is one of them things, where you watch a horror movie at night and then you've got to, like, watch an episode of South Park afterwards to get over it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so if you've come this far with us, go and get a drink, unless you're driving, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is, because after this you fucking deserve one if you've come this far. But the next one, the light one is we're just gonna laugh at everyone in that. Well, not everyone, obviously. There's a death in it, but
mostly I just spend most of the light episodes laughing at you. So.
Well, there you go. Wanker.
It'll be nice to laugh at somebody else.
Yeah. So, on that bombshell, this has been the MO Podcast Dark, and as always, with me, Kontamesha-san.
And me, Atreya.
And thank you all so much for being here and joining us. And go and get yourselves a drink, because that was rank. Bye.
Bye.